Hello there. Happy Saturday night, March the 23rd, 2024. Hope you are doing well wherever you are. Hope you're having a great weekend so far. It's been a very active and busy day for me. It had some important business to take care of today, so I was happy to take care of that. And then just a few minutes ago, I watched the ending of a really exciting game in the NCAA tournament. I'm not a huge basketball person, but during the NCAA March Madness timeframe, this when college basketball tournament heats up here in the United States of America. The college teams get together in I think a 64 team tournament, all to determine the national champion of college basketball. Well, they're in the round of 32 now, wrapping that up to determine who are the final 16 teams. And I just watched NC State pull out a nail biter of a win in overtime over oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank who they played, but it was the NC State game. They won in overtime, and it was a very fascinating game to watch. I'm not an NC State fan or anything, but college basketball is in full swing. But yeah, hope you're enjoying the first weekend of spring so far. The weather has been kind of up and down. I was in the northern United States for a couple of days earlier this week on business, and very happy to be back here in Georgia for some nice weather. But tonight, I'm really happy to have a chance to talk to you and just share some thoughts on what I think is one of the best movies that I have seen in years in the theaters or period. And that is Dune Part 2, the new film from director Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, and an incredible cast of actors. Stellan Skarsgård, Austin Butler's in this. Just have Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem. The list goes on and on and on. Dave Bautista. So many amazing actors, just putting incredible performances on screen for these characters in this great story that's based on the series of books from Frank Herbert that started in 1965 with the very first Dune book. So Dune Part 2 is the part 2 of the wrapping up the book. So you have Part 1, which came out on 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray a couple of years ago. Amazing. Love this film. And part 2 sort of wraps up the content of the first book from Frank Herbert's novel. From what I understand, the 1980s version that David Lynch did tried to cover everything in that first book in that one movie. And I think that was part of the problem with that film. But it does have its own charms. I really like what Denis Villeneuve has done with the material and breaking it up into two movies. He gave us an amazing part 1, and part 2, I think, takes it to the next level. So I just wanted to come on here tonight, just a nice casual conversation, and just share what I think about this movie. Really hear your thoughts of what you think if you've seen it. What do you think of the series? I want to hear from you if you happen to be someone who's read the books and you know the source material and what you think about how the movies compared to the book. So it's always interesting to hear that perspective. I don't have that perspective as I have not read the books yet, but I am now inspired to check out Frank Herbert's novel. So yeah, so I'm here to talk about Dune tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' thoughts on it, and you know, let's see what comes out of it. I'll just come out and say that I think that Dune Part 2 is one of the best films that I've seen in a long time, and it's probably one of the best films that come out in the last decade. Christopher Nolan's film Oppenheimer won Best Picture a couple of weeks ago at the Oscars, and I was very happy to see that. Very happy to see an amazing and acclaimed filmmaker finally get his due as Best Director and to see his film win Best Picture. I do believe that Oppenheimer is Nolan's best film, and I do think that in the case of Denis Villeneuve, a director who I believe will also get his due on that Oscar stage at some point, I do believe that Dune Part 2 is probably Denis Villeneuve's best film. Now, of course, there are a number of great films to choose from in that regard. Of course, you have the first Dune movie, Dune Part 2. I do think Part 1, excuse me, here, that came out in 2021. Really enjoyed that movie. Part two takes it to the next level. But Denis Villeneuve is really giving us some amazing films like Prisoners here, starring Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. What an intense, intense movie. Really love this film. If you have not seen Prisoners, that's a good one from Denis Villeneuve. Another one that I love that has Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin in this one as well, and Emily Blunt. Sicario. Love this movie. This movie is so good. It has a sequel directed by another director, Day of the Soldado, but this is Sicario, which is super good. And then this film here, when it was first announced, I thought to myself, we do not need a sequel to Blade Runner. They better not mess it up. Denis Villeneuve, not only did he not mess it up, I think he delivered perhaps arguably a better movie than the original Blade Runner. Now that may sound like sacrilege, but I mean it's really good. I mean, it's one of those cases where they hit the marks and they did a great job with the sequel. Similar to Top Gun Maverick, sometimes it works out where you can do a sequel decades later and it turns out really good. They don't mess it up. More often than not, however, they do kind of screw it up. Like Coming to America, they could have skipped that movie. But yeah, we're talking Dune Part 2 tonight. And folks, Dune has done so well at the box office. Let's talk about it here. Dune Part 2 is just killing it at the box office. You see here that Dune 2 passes huge box office milestone with over $500 million domestic and international. And it's got plenty of spice left in the tank. So that is great to see. And then what Dune Part 2 spicing up the box office means for the future of movie theater. So Dune Part 2 has eclipsed the box office of Part 1, and it's also injected a lot of energy into going to see movies in the theaters and giving moviegoers a reason to, hey, why should I go to the movie when I can just watch it at home? Well, in the case of Dune Part 2, that's a movie that I highly recommend seeing in the theater. Now, certainly, I plan to get the 4K when it comes out, but this is a film you want to experience in the movie theater because Dune Part 2 is just that. It is an experience. I mean, visually, seeing that on the biggest screen possible, the wonderful photography, the cinematography is just top notch, some of the best cinematography you will ever see. But the audio side of it, just the auditory aspect of this film with that Hans Zimmer soundtrack and just all of the sound effects that are going on in this film, it is an absolute visual and sonic experience seeing this movie. And that music is just it's just powerful, and the visuals are powerful and just put together. It is one heck of a package that you want to experience in the theater first. And then, of course, when it comes out on disc, it's going to be a fine presentation on disc, but you at least want to experience it in the theaters first. And so these articles just talk about how Dune Part 2 is doing really well at the box office and the fact that, hey, it's also, driving a lot of moviegoers to want to go back to the theater. So let me see who is out there. I know I have a pretty limited um, audience tonight. So far, I've got Adrian James saying hello there. How are you doing, Adrian? Hope you are doing well. I think most people are probably watching the NCAA tournament, so no problem. I just want to put my thoughts out there on this film. I really love this movie, and I am really looking forward to it coming out on 4K Ultra HD. So let me also share something else. I really look forward to those who are going to also join this by replay because I really do want to hear your thoughts on this amazing, amazing film. All right, you see here every Denis Villeneuve movie ranked by box office. This is from Collider. It says here, like his movies, Denis Villeneuve's box office success turned from slow burn to blockbuster. So what you're seeing here in this article from Collider is a steady progression of box office growth for Denis Villeneuve films. And as I think he is developing one heck of a following because people are discovering how amazing a filmmaker this man is. I mean, Denis Villeneuve is, I put him up there with Christopher Nolan as those two being some of the best filmmakers out there today at the height of the craft of filmmaking, just putting together amazing, amazing films. I think Oppenheimer was the best film I saw last year, and Dune Part Two is the best film I saw this year, and probably it's the best film I've seen in at least 5 years. It is so, so good in terms of the total package, in terms of the technical aspect, the story, the way it's presented, the cinematography, everything coming together, the music, just powerful, powerful stuff. Very well done. And I think it did a nice job of taking part one to the next level and giving you a little bit something more of an experience. So, Denis Villeneuve's films ranked at the box office. You have Maelstrom from 2000 with a $254,000 box office worldwide, so not a whole lot there. Enemy from 2013, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, brought in 3.48 million, a little bit more. You have Incendies from 2010 that brought in 6.8 million at the box office back from 2010. And then you have Sicario, this amazing film here. I love this film. This is Emily Blunt there that you're seeing on the screen there. But what a nice cast. Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin. Just such a good movie. This was one of the best movies of the year when it came out 9 years ago. It's hard to believe it was 9 years ago in 2015, but this is a brilliant, brilliant film. That opening sequence with the sound effects at certain points, just, oh my goodness, it is such a good film. Makes me want to pop it in the player tonight after this live stream, but I probably won't, but I need to soon. So Sicario. Then at number 4, you have Prisoners coming in here in the rankings here, but with the box office of 122.8 million. Really strong performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman here as a police officer and a father who has a missing daughter. And just the intensity of their performances is something to watch in this movie. Just great stuff. I'm enjoying a nice cup of peppermint tea here, peppermint herbal tea. So then we have number 3 is one I have not seen. I have not seen this film, Arrival from 2016. It brought in over 203 million at the box office. So that is one, I think, starring Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. So definitely one to check out at some point, perhaps, maybe. We'll see. And then at number 2, we have Blade Runner 2049 from 2017, bringing in 267.69 million. That's number 2. And then at number 1, of course, is Dune Part 1 from 2021, which brought in 402 million. Well, guess what? Dune Part 2 has already crossed $500 million. So it is now Denis Villeneuve's number 1 box office film. So yeah, that is great to see. Let's see, we have Jerison here. Hello, Jerison. How are you doing? Dune is one of the best films in recent years. Yeah, part 1, 100%. Denis Villeneuve is like the digital Christopher Nolan. Yeah. Yeah. And apparently they both have appeared together. They have a lot of respect for one another, as they should. They're two craftsmen at the top of their game. So what can I say? I mean, the first film, I really enjoyed the first film. I think it did a nice job of setting the stage with, it opens up talking about the general, parameters of, okay, you have this house, the House of Atreides, you have um, the House of Harkonnen, you've got the Emperor, you've got this planet called Arrakis, which is the only place in the universe that this spice melange is harvested, and this spice melange is critical to space travel, critical to so many applications. That's critical to the existence and furthering of human life. and it's only found on the planet Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune. And so the Harkonnens had been ruling the whole spice harvesting operation for a number of years. The Emperor decides to pull them out and bring in House Atreides at the beginning of part one. So that is where part one begins. You have, the Duke Atreides, who is played by Oscar Isaac. He's the father of Timothy Chalamet's Paul Atreides, and they're going to take over the spice operation on Arrakis. And of course, things transpire. Some people die, and you know Paul Atreides begins to begins his ascent to fulfill his destiny on the planet Arrakis, partnering with the Fremen, who Zendaya, who is Chani, who is part of the Fremen people. So they're trying to overcome the oppression of those who are harvesting the spice on the planet Arrakis, and it's just an interesting story. They live on Arrakis, which is a desert planet. There's hardly any water, and that's a part of the dynamic of this film. You have these sandworms who are big monsters, creatures who move through the sand and are part of the danger of the spice harvesting operation and just living on the planet Dune itself. And then you have these warring factions between the House Atreides. You have on their planet, and then on planet Getty Prime, which is this stark, sterile world that is devoid of any, lush form of life. That's where the Harkonnens live, a very harsh, rough people. And then you have the planet where the Emperor is, and you have other, planets and ruling families. But it's really the House Atreides and the House Harkonnen and the Emperor who are the main characters or main players in this Dune story. So Dune Part One ends it in a place where you have one house who is basically devastated, and that leads you into Dune Part Two. I'm trying not to give away too many details. I don't want to spoil these films, but inevitably, I'm going to say some things that might spoil some plot points. So please forgive me if I do. And if you're sensitive to that, definitely consider putting a pause on this and coming back after you've had a chance to see the films. So, Jerrison, overall, the Dune film series got $1 billion. Yeah, between Dune Part One and Dune Part Two, it's done very, very well. So, let me bring up here, of course, in Dune Part Two, you have a continuing of the story from Part One. You have Timothy Chalamet's Paul Atreides and Zendaya's Chani. They're continuing to nurture a relationship here. There's definitely, a chemistry between the two. Of course, Paul Atreides being part of the, House Atreides, and Zendaya's Chani is a member of the Fremen, who is the native people on the planet Dune who are fighting against the oppression of the spice harvesters and people like House Harkonnen. So they're trying to find their way. There are people who are thirsty because there's no water to drink, hardly any water to drink. So every drop of water is literally more valuable than gold on the planet Dune. So that is a part of the dynamic of these people. Of course, you see here Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya at an event celebrating the film, which is great to see. And you see here, Ron Arazo, evening, watch the film twice. Amazing movie. Villeneuve does scale like no other. The world and the structures felt massive. Yeah, I agree. That's such a great comment. And part of what makes this film so amazing to me, and I'll just tell you right now, is the world building. I totally agree with you, Ron. I mean, the way that Denis Villeneuve shoots this film and the way that he presents this world is so believable. I mean, it's sort of like it's unlike anything I've seen, and it he does a great job of just with the cinematography, with the art design, the production design. You know that there's some CGI going on. There has to be, right? But you don't really get a sense of where it begins and ends. You just have no idea. You're just so immersed in the beautiful visuals that are on display. It is just incredibly impressive. It's one of those things where I remember watching the Game of Thrones series, over the years. And one thing that really I wish I had not seen was some of the behind the scenes footage or the making of, because it ended up ruining it for me because I was so impressed with just the wonderful uh, production design, art design, just seeing the wonderful visuals of that series, that when I finally got a glimpse sort of almost behind the curtain of how they were doing some of those shots and how what was fake and what was real, it just sort of broke the illusion for me. And I was like, man, I wish I hadn't seen that. I wish I could just immerse myself back into that world of Westeros, or at least certain parts of it. But um, I think about that because I think when it comes to Dune Part Two, I don't want to see any making of. I don't want to see anything at all about how this was made because I don't want the illusion broken from me. I want to just maintain the beautiful visuals that I'm seeing without any knowledge of where green screen or CGI came into play. I just want to immerse myself in those visuals. So that's a great point, Ron. You have Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya there, looking great there. You have, of course, Paul Atreides doing his thing there with a nice shot. There are some amazing shots in this movie with several characters. I mean, I love how I love how Denis Villeneuve creates a big, vast world and universe with this picture, and does a great job building the world. But I also like how he also gets deeply personal with the characters, right? So you have this big universe and these different planets across this galaxy or whatever it is in the year 10,191. So you have the vastness of the space that represents, and the vastness of this planet and desert world that Dune is, as well as the vast spaces on Getty Prime and on the planet where the Atreides people are from. But then you also have those deeply personal moments where you see these close-ups of Paul Atreides, Zendaya's character Chani, Rebecca Ferguson, who's playing the mother of Timothy Chalamet in this film, who I think is Lady Jessica. She is, part of the Bene Gesserit group, and it's amazing seeing their close-ups of their faces and the emotion that they're feeling and they're emanating. You get that personal feel of your that you're dealing with real human beings, real people struggling with real issues in the context of this vast world. So I love how Denis Villeneuve balances all of that. It did lead to getting Academy Awards. What did? Oh, okay. It did lead to getting Academy Awards. Yeah. I mean, I really do hope that this film gets some kind of awards recognition. We shall see. It was an amazing movie. Watched it last night. Amazing how Denis and company can condense such dense material and make it transferable so well on screen. Yeah, and that's a great point. And that's where I was saying earlier that I do hope that people who have read the Dune books, if you're watching this live right now, or if you're watching this on a replay, I really want to hear your perspective. How do you feel about this adaptation of Frank Herbert's book? Do you like it? Obviously, there's a lot in the book that's not in the movie because there's no way you can put everything from the book into a movie, obviously. So there has to be some level of adaptation that condenses a lot of that. I just want to know what y'all think about it. Do you feel like it's a good adaptation, or do you have a different point of view? Let us know in the comments section. Let's see. You're saying part one. Okay. Jerrison, part one, getting that Academy Awards recognition. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it won. Did it win anything at the Academy Awards? I still have to look that up. But here you see Timothy Chalamet doing his thing as um, as Paul Atreides. Rebecca Ferguson plays his mother. She is part of the Bene Gesserit. I really like her role in this movie. She plays an important role alongside her son Paul Atreides, and she, of course, is part of this Bene Gesserit spiritual group, and sort of doing her thing there. And she has some important role to play as she integrates with the Fremen people along with her son Paul Atreides, and just sort of navigates her destiny and the child that she will bear as part of this story. So really good stuff. Javier Bardem. And I forgot the name of the character he played in this film. I do apologize. Actually, I will look it up now since I'm on the IMDb page, which I will show you shortly as well. Stilgar. Yes, Stilgar. So he played Stilgar. And I think, to be honest, I would have to say that Stilgar might be the best character in this film. He might be the most overall entertaining character in this film. He definitely brings some good comic relief, also moments of seriousness. And I think Javier Bardem does a great job of balancing the serious moments with those moments of levity and really giving a quality performance that I think just lifts this film and just helps make it the great film that it is. Let's see. I love the baby in the womb images, so life affirming. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Really, really good stuff. Really good stuff. Mainly artistic awards. Yeah, I'll have to look up what awards it won at the Oscars, but that's good to hear. Stilgar. Yes, thank you, AA. Yeah, I looked it up on IMDb. Yeah, I looked it up. I think it's a great adaptation. The changes work, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it inspires me to want to read those books. I actually want to go to my library when I have a moment. I'm so busy, but when I have a chance, I want to swing by the library and just, you know, hey, do y'all have a copy of Frank Herbert's Dune? Or maybe I'll just order it on Amazon, but I'll probably just get it from the library. We'll see. Stilgar brought humor and pathos. Yeah, there was some really funny. There was some genuinely funny moments in this film. I mean, essentially, one of the dynamics of this film, of course, is the fact that Paul Atreides, Timothy Chalamet's character, is thought to be by some of the Fremen people. He's thought to be a savior, a messiah, a prophesied messiah, and so Timothy Chalamet's Paul Atreides is sort of fighting against that perception, doesn't want to be anyone's savior. But Javier Bardem is a believer. He believes that he is the one. And so there are some funny moments that sort of play into that. And I think Javier Bardem does a great job of, playing that. So good, so good, so funny, so on point. How great was the soundtrack? I know you were looking forward to part three. Very much so. Very much so. And the soundtrack is just incredible. I mean, so much of movies is made by the music. I mean, imagine some of the best films you've ever seen, some of the most epic films you've ever seen. Imagine if you took the soundtrack out. Imagine taking the music away. Would it have the same effect? No, it wouldn't. The music has the power to take it from being a good story, an okay story, to being over the top, epic, incredible. And the music in this film is second to none. Hans Zimmer's soundtrack is top notch. It's creme de la creme. It just puts the icing on the cake and just takes it to the next level. This movie is the absolute bomb, and I highly recommend it to those who, if you were a fan of this first movie, if you're a fan of this first movie, it's an absolute no-brainer. Definitely go see part two. If you are not a fan of the first movie, if you saw the first movie and if you were bored, which I imagine a number of people were bored by part one, if that's how you felt and you're not really into this universe, this story. You're not really into what's going on with the whole Dune and Arrakis and House Atreides and these warring families and the machinations. If you're just not into that story, then I can't recommend part two. If you're not into part one because of those things, you just didn't like it and you were bored and you were just barely staying awake, then you're not going to like part two. Part two is better, I think, in some ways, quite a bit better. But if it's also very similar to part one, and so if you didn't like part one, you're very likely to not like part two either. But I think if you're a fan of part one, definitely go see part two. You can feel it in your seat when you see it in IMAX. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. It is, as I said before, I cannot stress this enough. It is an experience. You want to experience this film in the theaters. There's certain movies, in my opinion, that you really do well to experience it first in the theater. This is one of those movies, Dune Part 2. I think the first Dune also, Oppenheimer last year, and those Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. I just think These are movies that are experiences. You want to experience being in the theater with a bunch of people and literally just being locked in together and enjoying this experience of a film in terms of the technical experience of the visuals, the audio, the wonderful sound, and just how it just soars and just I mean there are moments you can feel I mean it's just a feeling you need to have in the theater. And then of course experience it on physical media. So are you kind of getting that I'm recommending seeing this in the theater? Are you kind of picking up on the idea that I really like this movie? You know, I hope you are. Let's see. Uh the compilations of Stilgard shouting Lisan Al Gaib are funny for sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. It's good stuff. I mean, Javier Bardem just he's amazing. I mean, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in No Country for Old Men, my favorite Coen Brothers film, and he delivered in this film as well, big time. You see him here, Stilgar, there, just amazing, good stuff. Stellan Skarsgård, what an amazing actor he is. Stellan Skarsgård is the man, folks. He is the man. And what a makeup job here. He's playing the Baron, who is, of course, part of House Harkonnen. He's like the head of the House Harkonnen, and he is just a bad dude from the from the perspective of most people. He's just a bad dude. The whole House Harkonnen are rough, brutal people, and the Baron is an example of that. Let's see, Jerrison. Yes, definitely see it first in the theaters. Yes, 100%, 100%. Cannot recommend that enough. But yeah, this is an example of great makeup with this Baron of Harkonnen here. So good how they transform Stellan Skarsgård into this character, and I believe he delivers a great performance, an authentic performance playing the Baron here, and I just love it. Everybody fills their role really well in this film. I just literally have no complaints about anyone's role. Yeah, you have Dave Bautista. He plays a fantastic character, and I just what is the name of his character? Beast Robin. Yes, Beast Robin. So he's great in this. You know, he's just doing this thing in this film. So good. He basically ends up sort of failing, so to speak, the failing the Baron. So the Baron has to bring in, Austin Butler. Austin Butler looking wild and crazy. Austin Butler plays Fade Rotha. Fade Rotha. This is the role that was played by Sting, I believe, in the 1984 David Lynch version. So this is Fade Rotha, played by Austin Butler, who, of course, played in, I think, Elvis, which I have not seen yet. So I look forward to seeing that at some point. But man, did he deliver a chilling, powerful performance in this film, folks. Austin Butler delivered, delivered in this movie. He is so freaking awesome in this film, man. I mean, he is worth watching in this movie. So good. Such a great villain. He is scary. He is ruthless. He is powerful. And what a great adversary to rise up to go up against Paul Atreides, who himself, you see the growth of his character throughout this film. And you see where he starts off in this movie, very unsure of himself. You know, he doesn't know, oh, what am I doing? Kind of unsure of himself, still trying to discover who I am, who he is. And in Dune Part Two, he really gets in the groove of understanding who he is, where he wants to go, what he wants to do, how to be a leader. And in part because he's kind of forced into that leadership role. He kind of has to, sort of fight, you have to survive. And that's what he has to do in this movie. Let's see. Austin Butler. Uh, did I say his name right? It's Austin Butler, right? Austin Butler. Yeah. What did I say? Justin Butler? No. Yeah, I said as an Austin Butler. Yeah. Yeah. Another creepy character. Yes. creepy for sure. Oh, I think someone else said Austin Butler. Yeah, you did. Oh, okay. All right. I'm getting myself confused. But anyway, yeah, just great stuff. He just played an amazing character in this film. You see him there. You see Josh Brolin here and Florence Pugh, laughing it up. I think at that same event that Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya were at, just celebrating the film. Just good stuff. Florence Pugh plays the daughter of the emperor in this film, and I thought she did fine. She didn't have a huge role in this movie, but I think she did fine with what she had to work with, and certainly plays an important role as the events wind down toward the end of this film. So just good stuff. Really, really enjoy her as an actress. I thought she did fine. And then of course you have the wonderful sandworms. I think they did fine too. So there were some really epic moments with sandworms and riding sandworms and that you definitely have to see. I mean, just some epic moments. This is a film that I need to go see in the theaters again, and I'm very much looking forward to checking out Dune Part Two in the theaters probably one more time before it ends its theater run. But so far, it's doing really well at the box office. It's crossed 500 million, and certainly expect it to continue to build momentum. Let's see. AA says Florence epic outfits. Cool stuff. But yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section below what you think about Dune Part 2. Like I said, I'm about to wrap things up here. I just wanted to come on here for a few minutes and just share my thoughts on Dune Part 2 and just tell you why I think it's an amazing film. I think the story progression from Dune Part 1 and the progression of Timothy Chalamet's character as Paul Atreides was really great to see. Seeing the progression of his character growing as a man and as a leader and really figuring out who he is. um, I thought that was really well done. I really like the development of the relationship in this film between Paul Atreides and Zendaya's character Shani. I liked that relationship arc through this movie. It's one of those things where it's not just you know some sugary thing and everything is wonderful. There's adversity in there. There's some tough choices that are made in this movie that have huge impacts. And, things don't necessarily come to this wonderful, happy ending. It sort of leaves you wondering, okay, what's going to happen in part three? It leaves you with that sort of that Empire Strikes Back type ending where you have one of your favorite people going over here, and another one going to do something over here, and you're wondering, okay, what's going to happen now? And I really like that. I think a lot of films have sort of gone that Empire Strikes Back type ending. Whether it's like Infinity War, I think did something similar. A lot of films, create that situation where, oh man, it looks like the heroes are doomed. What's going to happen now? Come back for the next part, kind of thing. So I really like how they did that with part two. And now I'm looking forward to the next movie, which I believe is going to be Dune Messiah. And I hope it's been greenlit, but looking forward to seeing that. And given the success of this part two, I have every reason to believe that it should be coming um, here pretty shortly. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, thank you, AA. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come on here and share, what I think. Like I said, I think the story was presented well, but from a technical standpoint, on top of all of that, from a technical standpoint, this movie is absolutely top notch, second to none in really every aspect from a technical standpoint. The cinematography, the art design, the production design, just everything is just fantastic. The music is amazing. It looks fantastic. The cinematography and the shots are really great that show the epic scope and scale of this world, but also the deeply personal, shots coming up close to people's faces and really seeing how they feel as human beings. So I really enjoyed really every aspect of this film. See you later, James. Thank you, Jerrison. But yeah, let me know in the comments section below. For those of you who have seen this film, what do you think about this film? Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Dune Part 2? How do you feel about Denis Villeneuve's two installments so far in this series? And what are you looking forward to the most in Part 3, Dune Messiah? Let me know all that in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.